Okay, I've done a little more work on my lilies and my lily pads since last we talked, and I'm just gonna do a little bit more fiddling around here in the lily pads to make them a little bit more believable. And I'm gonna do that with a light green mixture, and this time I'm gonna use a little liquid medium to make them a little bit more fluid. And I think it's important to vary the little shapes and strokes so they don't all look the same. Because while there is certainly order in creation, the way it's displayed, based on how it interacts with the rest of nature, is rarely uniform. And I decided on pink for my water lilies. I may actually add some white ones, but because of the need to have a somewhat washed out look, I think it was important not to use white, although I've used a good bit of white on my few lily blooms. I may decide to do some more later, but I'm going to save that decision until later. These are further back, so I don't need to look quite as bright as some of the others will. I'm going to have a little arbor right in here with some steps, because in fact that's the position that I have in the photograph. And I know that, whoops, but if you can see the little arbor, and I doubt that I'm going to put people in there, but perhaps the boat and the little steps going down to the boat. But it really depends. When I think I've reached the point where it's finished and I haven't put all those things in, that's quite all right, because it just needs to be pleasing to me. These lily plants are pretty much floating, and then they sort of gather together in the pads, but there are quite a number floating around on their own, which this little thing was a mistake because I touched my brush on it. I'll just let it be a floater. Give him a little bit of a tipped edge here. And as you may know, Monet was very much interested in the idea of the play of light on objects and how the change in light actually changed the object on which it landed. I don't think I'm quite that philosophical about my painting. I really want it to be, just want it to be pretty. And however that works out. And I think first and foremost, as an artist, I have to learn to follow my artist instinct and exactly what that means. Couldn't get this one to lose its blueness. So I have to do some mixing on the canvas itself, which is not a bad thing. But I try to remind students that when you're mixing color on your palette, as soon as you realize you're not going to be able to change that color, the best thing to do is just start another little stash of color when you're mixing. And certainly the same holds true if you can't get the object that you're painting on the canvas to work with you. Then just take some turpentine and remove it, which is what I think I'm going to have to do down here, because I don't like it. That was painless, because I haven't really finished my water, and there was green there already. And that was a mistake. Started to add a few more darks in the bank over here. Much of this had already been done when I brought it in out of the garage, but I've done a significant amount on it yet. Okay, now with my stripped brush, some people call it a liner brush, I'm just going to go around and do some shadow areas. I need to do a lot of this because I've got a lot of contracts going already. But I like to have something that looks a little more finished. Actually, this particular liner brush, I think it's too small. This is a 0. It doesn't hold enough paint. So I'm switching to the number 1 liner script or rigger brush, whatever you want to call it. I think I'm beginning to lose some light, though it is only 5:30. So it must be clouding up to rain. Which is quite nice because I planted some new grass and it needs water. It's sort of good when you have paint in one area on your brush to go back and add it in somewhere else. A lot of weedy things back here and a lot of tall grasses will ultimately require some contrasting colors. Okay, thanks again for keeping me company while I paint.